everybody, and welcome back to my channel, and welcome back to the final wrap-up of the year. And let's pick my first TBR of 2026, my January TBR. In this month I ended up getting to 6 books. I didn't read 3 of the books on my TBR, but I did get to 3 of them, which is more than I expected, to be completely honest, because I was mainly just mood reading this month because I have just come out of a reading slump and I didn't want to get back in one, and then I was kind of still in one but not really at the same time. Anyway, the first book I ended up reading was Magpie by Elizabeth Day, which I ended up rating a 3-star. But this book is a thriller and it kind of was just a bit of a miss for me. But it basically is about a woman called Marissa, and she meets a man called Jake, and they end up having a relationship, and it's getting quite serious quite quickly. And then when they finally move in together and get a house, everything seems to be looking up for her specifically, and she's like, you know what, I want us to try for a baby now. So they try for a baby, but when they're trying for the baby, a woman moves in with them and is like lodging with them, so like they don't know who this woman is, and she's living with them. You soon find out that there's just a lot of weird things going on, and Marissa thinks that the woman that's moved in has this weird infatuation with Jake, and like she's going to try and steal him and everything. So Marissa gets a bit crazy, and I didn't really fully expect the plot twist in this, but I will say it happened way too early on for me personally. I would have preferred for the plot twist to be like after halfway at least, but it happened quite quickly, so then I was kind of bored the rest of the book. But yeah, I rated it a 3-star. I wouldn't completely rule the author out by any means. I found the writing quite enjoyable. It just, the storyline fell flat, and that could have also been because it's the first book out of my reading slump. But I just don't think it was a book for me, unfortunately. But the next book I read was Last One Out by Jane Harper, and I love her writing. I have rated majority of her books between a 3.5 and a 5-star. Like, some of them are some of my favorite books. The Dry, like obviously that's a very popular book, but it is her work, and this is a brand new release. I got it like I think a couple weeks after it was released, so I was really super excited to read it. But unfortunately it fell extremely flat for me, and I only ended up rating it a 2.5, which I know would seem harsh to some people, but unfortunately it just didn't deserve anything more than that, and honestly it could have even been a 2. Yeah, I went in this book really excited. She does write Australian, like they're all set in Australia from memory, the books I've read by her. I've read her whole backlist. From memory they're all set in Australia. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure. But this one basically follows Ro Crowley, who has returned back to her hometown that she has left, I think, about 5 years earlier. She's returned back because it's her son's like anniversary, and they're doing like a mourning ceremony thing for him, because 5 years previously he went missing on his 21st birthday, and no one has ever known what happened to him. No one knows where he's gone, if he's dead, if he's alive, nothing. It's in Carolyn Ridge, but unfortunately in this town the coal mine is putting pressure on this town, so a lot of people are leaving. The town's very like vacated, like there's a lot of people have left. No one really wants to live there, and there's just a lot of mysteries surrounding this town that no one's really fully understood. But unfortunately I think this fell flat for me, mainly because it was really heavily about the mine, which completely get it. Like, you said, in a mine town, like I get that, but also it wasn't really so much about them discovering what happened to Sam. Like, they did discover what happened to him, and it was them finding out about him, but it was also finding out about his uncle, who had previously, a couple years before Sam went missing, he had killed himself, this uncle. But I feel like the majority of the book was about trying to discover what happened to the uncle. That's just my perspective of it, but I wish it was more dedicated to Sam. But it also was very centered around Ro and her ex-husband, and them like communicating, and then just trying to figure out what type of the life they wanted to live, and if they wanted to live in this coal mine, or whatnot, and it just fell flat for me because I wish it was more about discovering what happened to Sam, because that's what it says on the back, so that's why I was excited. I do know for a fact from the reviews I've read that a lot of people agree and found this quite boring, which is really unfortunate, but I feel like it was bound to happen with one of her books. I was bound to not like it as much, and unfortunately it was this one. But this is the second book I ended up reading in December. The next book I read picked up the month a little bit, and I was very excited to read this. I got it for my birthday, so that is The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden, which I ended up rating a 4.5. So an amazing rating. I don't think I've rated any of her books below a 3.5. I could be wrong, I'll have to fact check that, but she's a pretty hit author for me. Like, it's not really hit or miss, it's pretty much always a hit. So I was really excited to read this one. This was one of the books I've really wanted to read from her for a while now. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Some part, I think I only docked half a mark because some parts I was just kind of like, the female main character really pissed me off sometimes, not gonna lie. And I feel like that's a common consensus with a lot of people that have read this book. But basically this book follows Sydney Shaw, who's like a single woman living in New York, and she's joined this dating app, and this dating app basically is meant to have like every single person in New York on it. And one night she's on a terrible date, and this man is quite like possessive, I would say, and like very inappropriate with her, and thankfully someone steps in and like stops him from doing anything to her. But the person that steps in, Sydney's immediately like drawn to him, and she's like, wow, he's so attractive and I'm obsessed with him. And then for weeks and weeks she doesn't know who this man is. But unfortunately, I think maybe a couple days later, her best friend who lives in her building with her ends up being murdered. So like the whole book's kind of Sydney trying to like figure out who could have possibly murdered her best friend. And unfortunately it leads to like a lot of distrust between Sydney and her like partner who she ends up being with, and like the book constantly goes back and forth between the mystery man that Sydney doesn't know his name and like his past and present. So the plot twist in this, I will say Frida McFadden books, majority of them I've read so far, I've guessed the plot twist, and that doesn't bother me remotely because I love a spoiler. But this one, I had no idea what was going to happen. No idea. She ends up dating this man, Sydney, and he's probably just not the person she expected, and a lot of people in her life are not who she expected either. And yeah, it's just very big. Like, it's just a perfect mix of mystery thriller. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I rated 4.5, but that I docked a half because she really pissed me off with some of her decisions. Sometimes I'm like, you're being so delusional. Look at who you're dating. Just go, is he being honest with me? And it was so obvious he wasn't half the time. And I also docked half because a lot of the time I found myself really, really, really enjoying the past chapters, and the present ones I was like, this is just like boring, like just get to the point, which that is unfortunate. But I find I do always, a lot of the time when I read books, either prefer the past or the present, which is going to happen regardless. But 4.5, definitely can't wait to read some more of her books and continue her backlist. But out of all the ones I've read, I think I probably, for the plot twist aspect, I would definitely recommend this one because yeah, just didn't expect it, and I was like, my jaw was open. I was like, girl, what the heck? Yeah, 4.5 for The Boyfriend. The next one, I can't hide my excitement. I literally can't. But the next book I rated a 5-star, and you'll be pleased to know that is Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J Maas, which if you've been following my book wrap-ups for every month, you would know this is the final book in the series, and I think I've been reading the series for exactly a year when I finish this. So it probably seems like a long time to some people. It is a 8-book series, and it typically wouldn't have taken me that long to read an 8-book series, but this book specifically is 984 pages. So they're not small books by any means. and I have been giving myself time to read them. I just knew I wanted to finish the series by the end of the year so that I can start more of Sarah J Maas's other series. I actually read this a lot quicker than I thought I would, to be honest. I think it only took me like 2 weeks, and I was reading other books with it, so I'm very proud of myself for that. But I loved this book so much, and that's why I rated it a 5. It was the perfect way to end this series, I feel like, and I think that's like, it's like a 50-50 split. I think some people loved this last book and some people didn't enjoy it as much, which is completely fine. Out of the whole series, I think I had 4 out of the 8 were 5 stars, and the rest were 4 and above. So that is incredible odds for a series, especially a series that is that long. And it's the longest, is it the longest series I've read? But I don't really know how to explain this without, because it's a series and it's the final book, but if you watched my 75 booked, I kind of went into a little bit like explaining it, but this book leads on from the previous book, which is a tandem read, and it's just basically everyone is in a battle now, and Aelin, who is the queen, Aelin Galathynius is their queen, and at the beginning of the series she was initially an assassin, but going by the name of, I can't remember her name, I'll have to put it here, but she was going by this name, and then throughout the book she finds out her real identity and what really happened to her as a child, and yeah, you find out that she is the queen. So Aelin has been taken by Maeve, the queen of the Fae, who is evil in every aspect of evil. She is the worst, and Aelin has been taken by her and is being tortured, and she's trying to get out of Aelin where these word keys are. Now these word keys like open this realm, and like if you have these word keys, basically like everyone fears you, everyone wants to be you. Like these word keys are the main point of this book. So Maeve is trying to she is torturing Aelin to find out where these are, and Aelin's just not giving up. So first half of the book she's getting tortured, and her mate Rowan is like trying to find where she is, whilst other people from the other books, like all these books have so many characters, I can't even begin to name them all, but in this book they are all split up trying to find different things to help Aelin. But Rowan is the person that's like hunting and trying to find her, and they do eventually end up finding her, and then yeah, it's just a battle. And like I feel like this book wrapped up everyone's storylines so beautifully, because in the first books it's Dorian, Kale and Aelin, whatever her name is, I can't remember, and they've got like this friendship, and then it kind of like dwindles throughout the rest of the books because a lot of things happen. But yeah, it showed them wrapping up their storyline as a group of friends very beautifully, and I loved that. It showed who Kale, he ended up with a beautiful woman called Irene, and she was like one of my favorite characters. I loved her. And them having a kid. I don't know if you actually see them have a kid, but that she is pregnant. Them with a kid. Is that a spoiler? Sorry guys, probably is. And then like Dorian, who's been through so much, and him like forming a relationship with Manon, who is she's from like the 13, she's a witch. I love her. She's probably my favorite character in this whole book. I love her so much. I love a witch in a book. If anything, this series has taught me anything, I love witches, and I need to read more books with witches. So if anyone has a witch book recommendation, I need to hear it, because I love witches. But yeah, Dorian and her relationship, and Manon like realizing she can be good and like a witch, and like witches can have relationships with the Fae and like humans, and it wrapped up everyone's storylines beautifully, and it was heartbreaking, it was beautiful, it was like it brought out every emotion I needed. I think I was kicking my feet at some point, I was wiping away like tears in my eyes, like I was so sad, and I actually formed such strong emotions for characters I just didn't even think I would, like Aiden's dad, or Aedion, or however you want to say it, his dad, and I was like, what the heck is happening? Anyway, if you don't know what this book's about, it's just basically them in a battle. They're trying to save their world and get rid of Maeve because she's evil. it was just amazing, and I didn't predict anything that was going to happen in this, and I still didn't like fully cry, which is kind of unfortunate. I did want to cry, but I had tears in my eyes at least. But yeah, I loved this. I love this series. Definitely a 5-star series for me. Even if they weren't all 5-star books, they would definitely, is definitely a 5-star series. And if I could recommend any fantasy series to you, I would recommend reading Throne of Glass. It's just, it's a bit more difficult to follow compared to, say, the Empyrean series and probably Akhtar as well. But once you like completely like focus on the book you're reading, it's quite enjoyable, and it does become easier to follow. But I'm actually sad that I finished this series now, but on to bigger and better books, I guess. The next book I read was kind of just like a filler book, because basically I only wanted to read 5 books this month. I didn't care if I read more, but I mainly only wanted to get to 5 because my extended reading goal was 80. So I hit my 60 reading goal and I hit my 70 reading goal, and I was like, I'm gonna set it for 80 and see if I can do it. And yeah, I had 5 books left to read by the end of the year to reach 80. Now I'm at 81 because I read 6, but so this book was on my TBR and I did want to get to it eventually, but I just didn't know when. So I'm glad I did end up reading it, and that is David Attenborough's Adventures of a Young Naturalist, which I ended up rating a 3-star. I do find it difficult, I've said in previous videos, to rate like true stories and non-fiction and stuff, because it's like real life and it feels wrong for me to like give it a low rating when he's like sharing his experiences. But I feel like 3s are perfect in between, because like I enjoyed some of it and I really wanted to learn more about what he was saying, and then other bits I was like, whatever. But this one follows young David Attenborough, so in 1954, when he travels the world to find like rare and elusive and like animals people have never heard of for London's zoo collection, and to film the expeditions for the BBC for a new show called Zoo Quest. And this I think follows, how many zoo quests? 3 zoo quests. So it follows him on a zoo quest to Guyana, I think it's pronounced, a zoo quest for a dragon, so like a Komodo dragon, and then a zoo quest in Paraguay. I don't know how to say that either, but it just shows him in all these different zoo quests. He meets lots of different people. He finds like animals that people have never even heard of. Like, I don't really think many people had heard of Komodo dragon. And yeah, he's just filming all this for a show, and I think it annoyed a lot of people, because I think he was bringing some of these animals back to zoos, but don't even ask me about that. I don't really know what was happening there, but I found it very interesting. I find David Attenborough very interesting in itself, because he's lived probably one of the most amazing lives I think anyone could probably ever think of, especially if you love animals, which I admire him for everything he's done. And I really wanted to read this because, yeah, like to have that many stories to tell people and to help people, and just, he's lived an unimaginable life. Like, I can't even begin to like imagine. But I rated it a 3-star. I would like to read some other books of his. There's another one of his books I really wanted to read, but I'm in no hurry. I should watch his shows though. I've heard they're amazing. The final book I read in December was Pet Sematary by Stephen King, which I ended up rating a 3.5. So I have had this on my TBR I think twice now. I think I had it on my TBR in April, and it just wasn't the time for me. I think Stephen King books, you really have to be in the mindset to read it, because like it is a lot to read sometimes, especially a book like this where it's meant to be like a horror and it's meant to be scary and it's meant to like, yeah, like intimidate you, I guess. Like a lot of his books really do intimidate me because they're so thick. This one's a smaller one, but a lot of his books are really quite thick. Now, the reason I wanted to read this particularly was because I've read, I think, all of his newer books bar a couple, and I really wanted to read some of his classics, and thankfully my mum is a huge fan. My dad likes his books too, but my mum's a huge fan, so she had like any book you can really imagine of his, bar a couple as well. But I really wanted to read some originals, and thankfully she had Pet Sematary, and I never honestly thought it'd be a book I'd read by him. I didn't think it'd be the first, at least, classic of his to read, but I'm glad I've read it. And I haven't seen the movie, so I should watch it. I'm going to have to now, but I think I rated it 3.5. It's still a good rating, don't get me wrong. But I think I ended up rating it 3.5 because I wasn't scared, and it wasn't really, I was definitely interested in reading it, but it wasn't really keeping me like hooked and on the edge of my seat, which I initially thought it would. But basically, if you haven't seen Pet Sematary, you don't know what it's about. Dr. Lewis Creed, so I think he is working at a university as a doctor, moves to this town, and across the street lives an old man, and they quickly form this friendship, which he initially thinks is a bit odd because like he's so much older. He's like, I think he's quite elderly from memory. And Lewis has like a little baby boy and a little girl who's a toddler and his wife. So they move to this town in Maine. And yeah, he quickly forms this relationship, I think with, his name's Judd. But the problem is where his house is, to get to the old man's house, they have to cross this road. And it's like quite a dangerous road where lots of big trucks pass through. So he's constantly worried about that, obviously. Anyway, he quickly forms this relationship with the old man, and very quickly stories are told. They find this pet cemetery that's out the back from both of their houses, and the old man takes the whole family there and is like, this is where kids bury their family pets, and people have buried their like cows and like just weird things like that. And they immediately think that's a bit odd because they've come from Chicago, in a city where people don't do that. But basically this pet cemetery soon becomes a place Lewis needs to go, because I'm sorry if this is a spoiler. It definitely is a spoiler, but I don't really think, it's kind of hard to tell this story without giving spoilers. But basically Lewis quickly discovers this pet cemetery is necessary to him because his daughter's cat dies, so he has to take, his daughter's obsessed with this cat, so he wants to bring it back to life. The old man has said, if you take this cat to the pet cemetery, you bury it in the soil, potentially something could happen. So he does that, he listens to the old man, he admires this old man, so he just does it, and the cat comes back to life. But the cat isn't the same cat as it was when it initially went into this pet cemetery. So that's kind of like the book. He's kind of like questioning like what this pet cemetery is really doing, and like a lot of things happen with people, and he's kind of like questioning if he can bury a person there and they'll come back, and like it's a lot of unknowns, I will say that. So that's really the gist of this book, and I really did enjoy it. I just wish it was a bit scarier. I've never actually read a book that I found scary. No, I haven't, because the Stephen King books I've read have been like really just hooking and mind-boggling, but they haven't been like scary, which I was expecting this one to be. But before I read it, I did go on Fable, and a lot of people said they wish it was more horror-based. I don't know if the movies are scary. Like I said, I'm gonna have to watch it, but I did really enjoy the concept of this book, like the bringing back the dead, and like it's kind of weird and they're not the same. I'm glad they made it like the pet isn't the same as it was when it was initially buried. I think it would have been a missed opportunity if they were like buried it and they came back as normal. But yeah, I ended up rating it 3.5. I feel like 3.5 is a good, honest star rating, honestly, and it's really gotten me in the mood to read more Stephen King, so I'm actually really hoping I get to another Stephen King book next month. You know what time it is, really, don't you? It is time to pick my January 1st 2026 TBR. My January TBR, and this is going to be a great one, I think, because I was gifted so many books for my 23rd birthday, and so many books for Christmas, and I have so many Stephen King books. Like, my cart is packed, like it's completely full. I don't have room on it, so I don't know what we're gonna get, but I think it's time to find out. So like I said, I have a lot of options, plus more over there, so We'll see what we get, but I hope it's a good one. And nothing's changed. I'm still going to do 3 prompts and then just 3 books off the bat. I need to really update my books, but that's a problem for another day. I need to update this so bad, it's not even funny. The Recruit by Robert Muchamore, which is a pick from Bodhi. So this book is The Recruit by Robert Muchamore, and Bodhi wanted me really to read this. It's from a op shop too, but he really wanted me to read it because I think he read it when he was younger. There's like a kids spy network or something like that. He said he thinks I'll really enjoy it, so I'm hoping so. It is a bit of a shorter book, so I'm hoping that might be a bit easier for me to get through. How many pages is it? 325 pages. So not overly long, not overly short. But this is the first book on my January TBR, and that is The Recruit. Next one. These don't have any of my new books in it, so really I have no idea what I'm gonna get. Second book is I Kill by Giorgio Folletti, which is another op shop find. This is I Kill, which I also found in an op shop. I did pick it. It makes me seem like a psycho, but it is about a ruthless serial killer that stalks the rich and the famous. The victims are found horrifically mutilated. Each killer's announced on the city's most popular radio show. Just sounded good, and I kind of just wanted a book that would scare me. Don't know really what that says about me, but it is kind of thick and I'm very intimidated. I'm gonna have to read the reviews on this before I read it to make sure it's not like actually terrifying. 527 pages, so not a short book by any means, but we'll see if we get to it. I'm feeling optimistic about the new year, but not that optimistic, unfortunately. But this is the second book on my January TBR, which is I Kill. Okay, final one of these. Let's see. See if I get another op shop pick. That'd be funny. Okay guys, the next book on my TBR is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, which I'm kind of embarrassed to admit this, but I have had this, I'm really embarrassed to admit it actually, I've had this on my TBR since last Christmas, so I think it is probably time because this has been on my TBR way too many times than I'm willing to admit, I'm not gonna lie. And there's not really any reason I'm not reading it particularly. I'm just kind of scared of romances at this point because the only romance author I particularly enjoy is Abby Jimenez. So this is Things We Never Got Over, which is by Lucy Score. I'm not really sure what this series is about, to be completely honest. I've just heard, like, I'm not sure which ones, but a couple of books in the series are great, and then there's 3 books, but some of them, 1 or 2 of them aren't great, but one is amazing. I'm not sure which one that is, but this is 483 pages. It is a romance, so it could be a good like palate cleanser, especially from my horror book that I'm reading. This is the 3rd book on my January TBR, and that is Things We Never Got Over, which I really hope I get to this one because, like I said, it's been on my TBR like 3 or 4 times now. First prompt is a free pick. I've never been happier. I have never been happier. What should we pick? Like, I don't actually know because I've got so many good options. Could pick a Stephen King book, but if I'm already reading them, I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm thinking a thriller or Little Women. Oh my god, I really want to read Little Women. I really want to read Little Women. I'm not gonna lie, like I'm really. And it's a shorter book. It is 261 pages. Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. I think I'm gonna pick this. It's not even really a hard decision for me because I've wanted to read this book for quite a few months now, and I just never read it because I didn't have a copy, but I got it for my birthday, and I do want to read more classics, so what better time to read more classics than right at the beginning of the year and just hit it off with a bang. So I'm so excited. Actually, I really am excited to read this. The 4th book on my January TBR is Little Women. So excited. You can't even, I can't even express it. My 5th pick, sorry. 3-word title. Okay, this should be relatively easy, maybe. It might be actually harder than I thought. None of my Freedom McFadden books I got given 3 words, unfortunately. Iron and Ember is technically 3 words. Alchemy of Secrets is 3 words. The Final Empire is 3 words. I actually do have more options than I thought. Under the Dome by Stephen King. One Dark Window. Wait, it's 3? Yeah, 3-word title. Okay guys, I don't think I have any Stephen King books with a 3-word title, unfortunately. Trying to look at like The Rose Bargain. I think I'm gonna go with The Rose Bargain by Sasha Payton Smith. I've heard amazing things. I really want to read more fantasy books from different authors, and I think I will enjoy it. I'm hoping I will. So this is the 5th book on my January TBR. The final prompt. What will it be? 1-word title. I think that might be hard too. I have options at least. So these are my options. The 1-word title. I have Crown Tide by Alex Astor, which is the 4th book in the Lightlark series. If I read this, I'm definitely gonna have to have a refresher of the rest of the series because I did not remember that well. I have Gone, which I know Bodhi would love if I read that, which I'll just grab now because that could be an option. So I have Gone by Michael Grant, which is an amazing option too because I actually really do want to read this, and it was on my TBR last month, but unfortunately I didn't get to it. I hate when books say the in it. Like, can it just not be crash? You know what I mean? I have Intermezzo by Sally Rooney, but I'm just not sure about that, to be honest. I have Insurgent or Allegiant, whichever one ever comes first, but I don't think I want to continue that yet. Alchemized, but God knows I'm not ready for that yet because that's like over 1,000 pages. I have Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Desperation by Stephen King. Not sure what that's about, but that could be read. But I think it's between these 2. It's definitely between Crown Tide and Gone. I don't know if I should read Crown Tide yet, purely because I don't really remember the series that well, to be honest. It's been a while since I read the entire series, like the 3 books before this, so I'm really unsure about that. And this is like a brand new series I could get into. It is thicker, but I'm thinking because it's meant to be like a YA kids novel that it could be relatively easy to read, and I know it would make Bodhi very happy, and I know he'd pick it for me too, to be honest. 560 pages, so again a bit thicker, but I also do have book 2, so I could just go straight into it. So because of that, I'm going to pick Gone by Michael Grant for my 6th book of January. These are my six books for my January TBR, my first TBR of the year. I'm very excited to see what this new year brings me book-wise, and yeah, I really hope I enjoy these. So I've got 3 books I bought from a bookshop, but I think these are like adventure, action, I believe, kind of, maybe. They've got fantasy, a classic, romance, and a thriller, or like mystery. I think it's a thriller. So these are my 6 books for January. I'll see how I go. I want to get to the majority of these, but you know, new year, new books, just see whatever tempts me really. But I'm very excited about a lot of these books, so I can't wait to read them. I might honestly start Little Women in the next day or 2, so that should be fun. Hope you enjoyed my video and listening to all the books I read, listening to me yap about all the books I read in December. Thank you so much for watching my wrap-ups this year. If you watched one or you've watched them all, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching me pick my TBR, and I can't wait to give you my thoughts throughout the month and next month about what I'm reading, and give you my final thoughts at the end of the month about what I did read. So thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.